Okay, we are live. Just give people a sec to find it. All right, come on in, everybody. Welcome back to the Holler. TNHoller.com is where you can find us at the TN Holler on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all those good places. We also have hollers hollering across the state. Thanks to your support, we really do appreciate it. Your chipping in goes a long way. Make it a few bucks a month and get one of these sweet holler hats like the one I'm wearing. And if you're buying or selling a home in Middle Tennessee, do it through Elisa Parker. She's supportive of us. And if you need a lawyer, Abby Rubenfeld is a big supporter, and she's awesome. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we're going to talk to somebody who is running for Congress here in Tennessee in the 5th district. There's a special election in the 7th, but then next year there's an election in the 5th, and Councilman Mike Cortese has thrown his hat in the ring to go after Andy Ogles, who we call Pinocchio Ogles around here. Mike, how are you today?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me on.
So, real quick, can you just tell us about the decision to try to replace Pinocchio Ogles? I'm going to go ahead and
Yeah.
call him that because I can't help myself.
No, absolutely, please. The reason I jumped into this race specifically is like you look around and just big money is running politics, man. And I'm just running to level the playing field. I believe real people deserve a seat at the table. And you look what's happening in Tennessee, you look what's happening across America. I grew up in a forgotten town, man. I know what it's like when politicians are looking the other way and you see families who can't feed their kids. And I'm starting to see economic indicators, man, that are starting to mirror what I saw when I was a kid. And I'll be damned if that's going to happen on my watch.
So, what's your background? Like, what do you want people to know about you?
Yeah, I've been here for 25 years, man. Nashville opened its arms to me back in 2001. I feel so lucky and blessed to have the opportunities I've had when I came here. Like I had the opportunity to create something great. Grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I grew up in an abusive home. My wife's dad was in jail for the majority of her life. And those experiences, they're really why I ran for council in the first place. Back in 2016, tell me if this resonates with you. Um, the discourse in our country just got really, really vitriolic and it just got real nasty. And for me, seeing neighbors start to get like unsettled with their neighbors, look at neighbors as enemies, that was very scary to me because it was my neighbors that gave me a path out, right? Like I remember on my first day with my wife, she was telling me, she said, my friends used to bring nickels and dimes to school so I could buy lunch. I was like, I totally get that. I was like, the shop owners in my town used to take care of me whenever things got squirrely. And it's like, if we have neighbors breaking down on that level and they're looking at each other as enemies, that path is not going to be there for somebody else. And we're in a point in America economically where you used to be able to work hard and get ahead, not just get by. And now the only certainty people are seeing is tomorrow's going to be a little harder than today. And the day after that's going to be a little harder than the next day. And just, you know, for me, making sure that we are putting people first, putting our neighbors first, putting our hometowns over headlines. That's the type of representation we need to get through this. I've worked through the pain of other people's bad decisions, and I know what we need to do this.
Yeah, I saw you mention this hometown over headlines idea. Can you explain a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Yeah, like we thought about that for months, and I was like, I want something that really showcases the worst of our politics, but also showcases what politics should be. And I feel the WWE nature of our politics now is really shown in the headlines part, but we really need to be worrying about our neighbors. For me, I live in a split district. I represent a split district. The guy who held my seat before, he was the former chair of the Trump campaign in Tennessee. So I have to work across the aisle every single day. And I found if you lead with respect, if you focus on values that tie us together, and you remove the partisanship from the message, you can have really productive conversations. And I've been able to grow that coalition while I've been in office. And if we're going to get through this, we're going to need people who can walk into those thorny conversations, walk into these situations, and really bring an argument to the table that excites people on both sides of the aisle and presents a path to a better life.
It seems like there's sort of this debate between, reaching across the aisle versus like trying to motivate new voters with, a message that is, leans into some of these things that, I think are popular, but are treated like these radical ideas. How do you sort of think that through? You know, are you looking to motivate voters that have not turned out? Obviously, we're a non-voting state mostly, or do you find yourself trying to reach across the aisle like you talk about, or is that a false choice?
You have to do both. You absolutely have to do both. And if you look back, like, what are we voting for? What are we giving people to vote for? A lot of people were confused when Obama voters went for Trump in 2016, and I wasn't. I was like, they were both viewed as agents of change. And then from 2016 on, Democrats started selling the status quo, save the system, keep what we have. But for 3 cycles, people were saying, look, the system isn't working for me, right? I'm waking up with economic uncertainty. I can barely make ends meet. We have students are terrified of graduation. We have parents working 60 hours a week who can't make ends meet. We have retirees going back to work, and they were telling us this, and we're saying save the system. We need to tell people what is the path to a better life. How do we create that? Like, I know what a lot of people, like elected Democrats, have frustrated me because I know what they're against. I don't know what they're for. And then we have people like Ogles who are just literally. He's what's scary about him is he's so subservient, right? Like, he's constantly serving his daddy. He's like, Daddy, look at me. Daddy, look at me. And he brings nothing else to the table. If he's not riding someone's coattails, he has nothing else to bring to the table. And he's just trying to get his name in headlines. And we have costs going up in Tennessee, food costs, medical costs. We have people dealing with things every day. Energy costs are going up. And he's worried about getting Trump a Nobel Peace Prize instead of making life better for everyday Tennesseans here. And I talk to Republicans, I talk to Democrats every single day. They both see it. They both know that he's out for himself.
So he just recently said that he thinks the National Guard should be sent to Nashville. You're a Nashville councilman. What's your response to Andy Ogles basically saying, we don't just need the National Guard in Memphis, send them to Nashville. Comrade O'Connell, he loves going after Freddie, is using the city as an outpost for international gangs to set up shop in our neighborhoods, punish criminals and the mayors who work for them. He loves to talk about punishing people, even though he's the one that actually probably should be punished for his campaign finance crimes. And then I just want to point out Senator Yarborough responded saying he's an embarrassment. It'd be great if he actually came to the Nashville portion of his district and tried to be helpful. Andy does not do town halls in Nashville. He only comes there and locks himself in the Capitol. What's your response to Andy saying this about Nashville?
Yeah, this is another daddy look at me moment. There's no substance to it. He's just trying to get on Trump's radar. Maybe there's another investigation he needs a pardon from. I don't know. Maybe he needs another investigation dropped. I mean, the fact that he just had to go to Congress to get another slush fund approved to pay for all the legal bills for all his past indiscretions, like, that has to tell you something. And the fact that he's not sitting here worrying about getting to know his neighbors, showing up in his district. I think in Columbia, they have MIA, missing in action signs for Andy, because no one sees him. That's where he lives, and no one sees him. He's 100%, like I tell people all the time, like, what's your campaign about? I'm for you and your family. He's for special interest. I want to make sure you have a safer hometown. He wants to make sure his name's in headlines. I want to make sure you have a path to a better life. He's been selling us out for 4 years. And his choices, you go down the list, he's done that every single time. Name one bill. He's filed over 80 bills. Name one bill that benefits Middle Tennesseans materially. It's all to give Trump a third term, make Greenland great again. It's all the showy stuff, the daddy look at me stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I think people should know, I can't imagine this is really going to go down this way, but tomorrow there's apparently a town hall for Andy in Spring Hill at the Big Bad Breakfast on Wall Street. So I highly encourage people to show up at that and make your voices heard if this is really a town hall that Andy's having. I am skeptical of it, and please feel free to take video and pictures for us and send them our way. I want to talk a little bit about some of like the specific topics that come up. You are in a primary. We just this morning saw Chaz Mulder has thrown his hat in the ring. I don't know if there's going to be anybody else that gets involved there. What do you think sets you apart from other Democrats in terms of this race?
Yeah, man. I mentioned this earlier. I grew up in a forgotten town. I know what it's like when politicians turn their head on your neighbors and neighbors can't feed their kids and they have to leave the state to find work. And there's too many indicators today that we're seeing that again, right? Like, the Wall Street Journal just published a survey where almost 70% of Americans feel that if you work hard, they're not going to see any economic gain. Like, that is not how you build a successful society. That is not a path to a better life. And I've worked through the pain of other people's bad decisions, and I know what's required. And it's just the same old thing is not going to work. And I don't say that to anybody in particular. Just looking at some of the races Democrats have run over the past couple of years, they're just not listening to the people. I think, to me, it's really telling that if you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene and look at Mondami, their core messages are the same. They're two of the most high profile politicians in the country. And while I think MTG is absolutely horrendous, she's actually talking to what people are going through. And we need to be talking to people on the ground and see what they're going through. Because you asked before, we do have to connect with Republicans. We do have to connect with people across the aisle because we live in this together. And we do need to create a vision of America and a path forward for a better life for everybody. But we also have to give people who haven't voted something to vote for and something to get excited about again. And we need for them to know, like, dude, I see you, I hear you, I got your back. So to me, that's very, very important. Like I said, that's what lifted me up and gave me a second chance and gave me the opportunity to achieve the American dream. And I know what that fight is. And I know what's
I think what you're touching on there, Trump too, he diagnosed real problems. Problem is their solutions make all the problems worse.
His cure was worse than the disease, man.
Right. Yeah. So what they're talking about is sort of a populism. You mentioned Zoran. I just want to ask, like, is he somebody that you support, and what do you think about Democratic leadership withholding their endorsements for him?
You know what really frustrates me about Democratic leadership? It's like, look, if you don't like the guy, you don't like the guy. But start listening to voters and put somebody up who's listening to voters. He's the only one listening to voters in New York. And the fact that people are rallying around a sexual predator, and we could talk about the Epstein files too, watching people just get into their partisan bunkers and support that. To me, you don't have to agree with everybody on every issue, but when somebody's sitting there talking to the voters and saying, dude, I hear what you're going through, I want to help make that better, you have to respect that. And if they disagree with that, then run somebody who's going to do the same thing, but run them with their ideas. And they're just not doing that.
So you do think they should be endorsing him? I guess that's my question.
I think, look, if you're not going to endorse, run a better candidate, right? That's up to them if they want to endorse. But seriously, start listening to the people, see what they're going through, because the people are telling you, you are not listening to me. And he's the only one who's listening. And he's the only one who's firing people up. So yeah, if I was in New York, I 100% think they should endorse him.
Okay. And then just along that note, one of the there's not a ton of things that differentiate Dems. So I'm just asking you so people get an idea. There was a vote not too long ago about this Gaza stuff and, an arms embargo on Israel, which I think a lot of rank and file Dems support, but Dems in power and politicians, elected Dems are sort of not where the rank and file are. Where are you on that kind of thing in terms of the Gaza issue, putting a stop to what's happening there and potentially taking a real vote on withholding arms from Israel?
Yeah, I think you look at the terror attacks of October 7th, and they were horrific. And I think Israel's response at that time, I think any nation state would have done that. Any government, when their people were slaughtered, would have responded in a certain way. But something happened from that response until now. And anytime innocent women and children, oh, you're okay. Anytime innocent women and children are being targeted, man, and you have, that is not the way forward. I can't see us, I can't see us backing that. That's not going to stop anti-Semitism. That's not going to bring peace. That's not going to release the hostages. There just has to be a better way forward than bombing innocent women and children. And I have Jewish friends, I have Jewish colleagues, I have Jewish family.
I am Jewish, by the way.
And I talked to, and please tell me if this resonates. They were horrified and they were just devastated by what happened on October 7th. But they see what's happening and they're like, this can't continue, right? This is not going to make any of this better. This isn't going to bring peace. It's not going to quell anti-Semitism. This isn't bringing the hostages back. And these poor people are going through something. So I don't even know if words do it justice what they're going through right now. And I don't know how we got from October 7th to here. But I would hope we would use our leadership to find a better path forward. So, we can find peace and anti-Semitism and, make sure that these people are not suffering anymore.
Do you think you would support some sort of arms embargo or withholding of arms from Israel if there was a vote in front of you, if you were in Congress, elected Congressman Cortese, there's a vote about withholding military aid, which we give them every single year. And we have seemed to have given them a license to continue to do what they're doing, even as we see, the Greater Israel Project come into focus. We see Trump now talking about, the Gaza Riviera, it's all out there. where would you stand on this arms embargo vote? Because there was a specific vote about that not too long ago.
Yeah, to me, I look at, and I said this to many people, like, I don't think we should be giving unfettered access of any of our weapons to any country, right? I don't think you should be able to use our weapons against innocent women and children in any scenario. And if that's what's being done, I support, I support giving defensive weapons to Israel, but if they are being used against innocent women and children, we need to stop that immediately.
Fair enough. I think that's a point of contention, just like, and I'm just, this me speaking, not you speaking now, but it's like, can you continue to give even defensive weapons to a country that's doing what they're doing over there? And personally, I have a hard time with that. And I think Dems need to kind of, even at the DNC right now, they're struggling with like what resolutions to pass. And personally, I just feel like, to be a leader in this party, you got to be morally clear about, like, this has to stop and we got to do whatever it takes to stop it at this point. That's me talking. I hear what you're saying though. In terms of your campaign itself, like, where are you spending most of your time? What's the district looking like? Like, what are you hearing from people out there?
Yeah, it's my current district is actually really representative of District 5 as a whole. So we have 700 families on WIC assistance. We have multi-million-dollar homes. We have people with small farms. We have urban areas. So we have suburban areas as well. And the one thing that's really consistent is, and you hear this from every group of people that you talk to, tomorrow is going to be harder than today, and it's getting really, really hard to make ends meet. And like I said, you have that with people on WIC assistance. You have people multi-million-dollar homes saying the same things, that they're starting to feel the squeeze. And we cannot continue down this path, man. Like these economic conditions, we need to get real people with a seat at the table when this policy is being drafted. I mean, think of this: a congressman is going to take thousands of votes their first year in office, right? Like, it's like death by 1,000 cuts, and where you don't have representation, because you and we don't have $1 million lobbyists like lobbying on our behalf to make sure that these policy positions and these bills are representing the people at the level, at the ground level, right? We don't have dark money PACs pushing our message for us. We need representation who's going to bring real people to the table and make sure they have representation when these policies and these votes are being taken. Thousands of votes a year, and we don't have somebody who's bringing real people to the table and worrying about their neighbors. And that's why we're seeing the suffering. That's why we're seeing the economic conditions we're seeing. And let me tell you, man, it's the economic conditions like this, the plant closures, the layoffs, young couples not able to start a family, retirees having to go back to work. Those are the economic conditions that create swamp creatures like Andy Ogles, right? Because now he has the opportunity to prey on this pain that people are going through, to prey on this idea that you're forgotten, that the government's too corrupt to even think about you. It's all for big money. We need people going in there fighting for our neighbors and making sure they have a seat at that damn table.
What's your level of alarm for our democracy right now? Full disclosure, like, I personally don't think the alarmists have been wrong once. And I don't want to say pessimistic, but yeah, I mean, pretty pessimistic about how far this has already gone, and how unaware people seem to be about it. What's your level of alarm in terms of our democracy?
I think it's going to get harder before it gets better, absolutely. But I'm optimistic on the long term. I'm 80% Mr. Rogers, 20% bare knuckle brawler, and we're going to need both of those things to get through this in our representatives. But I do see, the thing is, the pendulum always swings back, right? And if we have people who are creating a path to a better life, people resonate with that. We've had ICE raids in Nashville. I spoke out about that in district, and when we talked about what that conversation was, I had broad support from conservatives and Democrats in district when I spoke out about that.
Do you think mass law enforcement should be illegal?
Yeah, we do not need law enforcement and masks. That does nothing but breed distrust. That makes it less safe for law enforcement, and even everything that's happening right now, man. The way this has been handled by the governor and by the current administration, they're actually making us less safe, right? Like, I talk to the narcotics department. I talk to the police department very regularly, and some of their best lines of communication into these gangs are the immigrant community. And now they're scared to talk because they don't know, like, wait, I'm here legally. I don't know if I'm going to get pulled up or not, because this is done in such a a way that just crushes civil liberties. It's done in such a way where they're just looking for numbers. It's done in such a way that's so disrespectful on every level. And it's literally making us less safe every day. And Andy Ogles he's promoting that. Like, he's saying that's the way to go. And some of the best resources that our law enforcement officers had are now afraid that they're going to get picked up. And now those lines of communication are closing.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. People are now afraid to talk to the cops. They're afraid to, they say they want people to do things the right way. Meanwhile, they're arresting them at immigration appointments. So, this really isn't about just legal immigration. This is about people taking issue with where the country's headed demographically pretty clearly. And then I just want to bring this up because I just am so horrified by it. They blew up a boat that they claim was full of, gang members and drugs in international waters coming from Venezuela without due process. Like, that's dark, man. What do you think when you see that, and seeing as how they tried to say that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was an MS-13. We've seen them claim all sorts of people are gangsters and gang members, and now they're just bombing boats off the coast that, without any verification, it seems. I mean, that's dark, right?
Yeah, we were the shining city on a hill for a reason. We believe in law and order for a reason, right? Like, I'm not saying these people aren't. If they were drug traffickers, they're terrible people, right? They're doing terrible things, but we need to be following process, because if we don't follow process, then all of a sudden, then anybody they could just pick anybody for anything and just create a charge. Like, this is not the Chinese Communist Party, and Andy and Trump are trying to govern that way, and they're trying to break down all these processes and in the rule of law that help us find if somebody's actually innocent. Like, innocent until proven guilty, man. Like, we have that for a reason. Like,
I know.
this is terrifying. This is such an attack on civil liberties.
I was raised on that. Like, do they even teach that to our kids anymore?
Like, I tell you what really, what really surprised people is when Ogles went after Belmont.
Yeah.
Did you see that? It's an evangelical, it's a Christian university with an evangelical president. Yeah. And then, but you know what? Our campaign kicked back, other people kicked back, and all of a sudden he backs down, right? He's like a little boy throwing
about Andy. It's like he has called for all these investigations. He wanted Zoran deported. He wanted Freddie arrested. But like, the more he says that, the more none of it happens, the weaker he looks. Same thing with Belmont. It's just like all these boy who cried wolf stuff. It's hard to even pay attention to anything he says anymore.
I got a story for you. There's some really conservative people in my neighborhood, and we get along well. But he was telling me he had met Ogles in a past life, like in a past work life, and he's like, that guy is such a goon. And then when Ogles started all this headlines chasing stuff recently, I was out for a run, and he stopped me. He goes, "I told you he was a damn goon." And he just kept walking. But you see it. Conservatives are talking about how self-absorbed and how out for himself this guy is. Yeah. But the thing is, the reason it doesn't stick is because there's no substance to it. There's never any substance to anything he puts out, right? It's all about flash. It's all about just staying in the news cycle, and it never sticks because it's always a daddy look at me moment.
Yeah,
it's nothing. It's never anything more than that.
100%. And we keep going back to like this FBI investigation into him that was squashed thanks to Daddy, and it's very clear, that Andy's thinking about himself and always has been. Where can people find your campaign?
MikeForTennessee.com and Mike for Tennessee on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. And when is the election? This is not coming up. This is next year.
Yeah. Right. The special is coming up this year, and ours is next November of 2026.
All right. Well, thanks for hopping on. We'll be watching, and good luck to you in the primary and the general.
Thanks, man. Really good talking with you.
Take care. So that was Councilman Mike Cortese, Nashville councilman running for TN-5. I just want to look at some of your comments real quick and address them. I forgot to do that while we were talking. Let's see. I'm not a Tennessean, but will contribute to this campaign. Ogles is a festering piece of pig manure. Okay. Michael, tell us how you really feel. Joyce, are you going to interview the other candidates? Yeah, I think I'm sure Chaz will come on here, whoever else wants to. And yeah, Andy Ogles, you're welcome on here anytime, my friend. And I actually don't know if Andy has a primary opponent, but I've heard rumors that Charlie Hatcher, the ag commissioner, was thinking about doing it. which would actually surprise me because he kind of strikes me as somebody who does not love confrontation. I've confronted him a few times on a variety of things at the Capitol, and he hasn't seemed to enjoy it very much. So I would imagine that going after Andy Ogles might be a lot for him to take. But, you know, I mean, look, if I'm Mike or Chaz, I'd probably rather run against Andy than somebody like Hatcher. So that might be why he's being encouraged to do it. Andy is just, I mean, there's so much to pick on. And, you know, just as a few I mean, we call him Pinocchio Ogles. The guy is so full of shit. Like, there are a lot of terrible people out there. Andy's at the top of that list, not just, you know, when it comes to the Tennessee, but just nationally. I mean, people know who this guy is for a number of reasons. There was an FBI investigation into him for lying in his campaign finance. He lied on his resume. The one that always comes to my mind is he claimed to be a Vandy grad and was running like a 21,000 person Vandy alumni group Facebook page on Facebook and didn't graduate from Vandy. So the dude was like an admin on a Vandy alumni page and did not graduate. Then there's the whole thing about raising money for the burial for his kid, which I haven't focused too much on that because that's just extremely horrible. And, you know, but Phil Williams talked about it. Phil was up his ass for a while. Am I going to the spring hall for Ogles Town Hall? I'm going to try to get there. Saturdays are a little tougher for me. I have family stuff. My kids have sports. My daughter likes to go take horseback riding lesson. So I don't know if I'll get there for the Saturday town hall. I hope you all will get there and get in his face and say some stuff to him and send us video. That's always really helpful. I will try to be there. I also I cannot imagine that it's just going to be like you show up and you walk in and there's this town hall where Andy Ogles is there. Like, there's almost no chance that that's what happens. I can pretty much guarantee you he's going to slip in through a back door. They're going to have security at the front and they're only going to let in people that are being vetted. Like, I guarantee you that's what's going to happen. That being said, I highly encourage everybody to go there and talk and say some stuff and make sure you get it on video. That is, always be recording. That is the main thing. That is our life motto. And I really, really hope that you all show up and give Andy Ogles a piece of your mind. Thanks for following, and we'll see you next time.